Welcome to Brazil Uncovered Files, where you will hear about the most disturbances cases from Brazil. On March 13, 2019, a normal school day in Suzano turned into a nightmare no one expected. Within minutes, chaos spread through the corridors of a public school and no one inside had seen any of it coming. By the end of it, 8 people were dead day-in, and the country would never look at school safety quite the same way again. The school was called Professor Raul Brasil State School Care, a large public institution with hundreds of students. The 2 attackers were former students of that very school. Their names were Guilherme and Luiz. Guilherme Tauchi Monteiro was 17 years old. Luiz Enrique de Castro was 25, his older neighbor. The 2 had been neighbors since childhood, living less than 1 kilometer from the school they once attended together. According to her, the bullying was so severe that he simply stopped going. He never returned to finish his studies. Enrique, the older of the 2, had also struggled socially. He was described as unstable and deeply resentful. Somewhere along the way, the 2 found each other, and their shared bitterness became something far more dangerous. Police later discovered they had been planning the attack for at least 18 months before the day it happened. The inspiration was clear. Investigators found references to Columbine throughout their personal items and devices. They had studied the '99 Colorado massacre in exhausting detail, and they wanted to go further. Guilherme was active on Dogolachun here, a notorious anonymous online forum known for glorifying acts of mass violence. On that forum, he openly asked other users for advice on obtaining weapons and discussed the attack he was planning. In the weeks before the attack, he posted photos wearing a skull mask, holding the firearm he would later use. The gun, a .38 caliber revolver, had been obtained illegally. They also carried a crossbow, axes, and knives. 5 days before the attack, a video showed Guilherme and a 3rd suspect training at a shooting range together. That 3rd suspect, of a 17-year-old, was later arrested. Police found encrypted messages and violent drawings. Investigators considered him the intellectual author of the attack, though he never entered the school that day. On the morning of the attack, the 2 had made a pact. Each would kill someone before ever setting foot in the school. Guilherme drove to his uncle's car dealership nearby. His uncle had fired him months earlier for petty crimes. They shot and killed him at the dealership. Then they got back in the car and drove directly toward the school. They arrived at around 9:40 in the morning. Hundreds of students were still seated in their regular classes. What happened next was captured on the school's surveillance cameras, and the footage shocked the entire country. Guilherme entered firing on students trying to flee. Enrique followed behind, swinging an axe at those already down. Students and staff were completely caught off guard. Some tried to hide, others ran. Panic flooded every hallway. A school lunch lady named Silmara gathered a group of students and hid them in a locked room until police arrived. Her quick thinking saved lives. She would later receive honors from the governor of São Paulo for her actions. Police and emergency services arrived quickly. When officers closed in, Guilherme shot Henrique and then himself. The attack was over in minutes, but the damage it left behind would take years to fully understand or begin to process. 5 students were killed. 2 school staff members were killed. Guilherme's uncle had died at the dealership. 11 more people were wounded, of several of them critically. The youngest victims had only just reached their teens. The first school employee shot was Marilena Ferreira Vieira Umezu, a pedagogical coordinator. She died at the scene. Thousands attended a collective wake at a local volleyball arena the following day. The grief was visible everywhere. After the attack, investigators pieced together the full scope of the planning, from digital devices and notebooks. The evidence showed an obsession that had grown over years, fed by online forums, violent content, and shared rage. The case raised an uncomfortable question. How do platforms online become spaces where violence is openly celebrated? Dogala-chan was not some hidden corner. It was a functioning community and Guilherme had been an active member. The Suzano massacre did not stay isolated. It spread fast. Within months, copycat threats began emerging across Brazil. In August 2019, a student in Rio Grande do Sul attacked classmates with a machete citing Suzano. By 2022, Brazil had recorded at least 13 school attacks with direct links to the massacre. Researchers found online communities still glorifying the attacker's including fan accounts dedicated to Guilherme. The tragedy forced national debates about school safety, mental health support, online radicalization, and gun access. The president had, just weeks before the attack, signed a decree making it easier for civilians to buy guns. The timing did not go unnoticed. The political debate that followed was as sharp as the grief that preceded it. Suzano remains the second deadliest school attack in Brazil, after the Realengo massacre of 2011. The school reopened, life continued, but the warning signs had been there and no one had acted on them in time. Years later, Suzano is still remembered as one of the darkest and most troubling days in modern Brazilian history. A reminder that violence rarely appears from nowhere. It builds, either quietly, online. I subscribe to Brazil Uncovered Files Joe, because behind every story there is a truth that's still waiting to be uncovered.